Nama. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Purnim's getting closer. We're not there yet, but we're almost there. We had a carryover question from our last session, or one of those last sessions, specifically in relation to the Gauranga deity of Vishnu Priya. Remember that discussion? And the mudra of her hands, his hands are like this. And there was a question, what's the difference between this and this? A little research. That deity of Vishnu Priya is known as Dhameshwara Mahaprabhu, or Dhameshwara Gauranga, but Dhameshwara. And Kulia, now Navadvip, then Kulia. And according to one source, the source that describes, I'll give you the name of the source. Gaura Desh, a devotional guide to Navadvip Dham. It mentions specifically this deity form of hers that Vishnu Priya worshipped. According to this source, she worshipped this deity until she was 96, from 16 to 96. And then the deity worship continued thereafter. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving himself to her. I give myself to you is the meaning of that mudra. This is the benediction mudra, in distinction between the two. Was there any other follow-up subject that we were going to discuss? Anybody remember any other follow-up subjects? Okay. So this evening's topic is a very high topic because we heard at the Sunday lecture there were 3 external, 3 internal or confidential reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And Gambhira, which is what was supposed to be this evening's topic, is that confidential reason, or a manifestation of Lord Chaitanya's desire to experience the love that Radha has for Krishna, the feelings in that love that Radha has for Krishna, and the qualities in Krishna that she alone appreciates and relishes. So Gambhira, in one sense, represents that place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to the fullest, beyond imagination capacity, experienced. We hear in Krishna Lila that Rani manifest not just bhava, but something exclusive to Srimati Radharani, Mahabhava, and that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Gambhira. The circumstance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beginning to reside in Gambhira is found when he completes his tour of South India, ostensibly looking for his brother who had taken sannyas and gone to South India somewhere, and he made that as a good excuse. It sounds like a lie. But it's when if you're Lord Chaitanya, it's okay. I'm going to look, but he's omniscient. He knows that his brother has departed this world, which later became confirmed in the course of his travel. But to propagate the chanting of the holy name widely throughout the land, which he did, and many, many wonderful pastimes during the course of those activities. When he returned to Nilachala, no, he returned to Jagannath Puri. He was received first by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Now he had already revealed to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya his divinity, and of course we heard that Lila, how that unfolded. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had now become a superlative Vaishnav with many, as we heard, thousands of followers, thousands of renounced persons who are hearing from him and understanding from him, and he's now a perfectly realized Vaishnav. So he wanted to make a proper arrangements for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's stay while he was in Puri. So he approached the king, and King Prataparudra was requested by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for a place that was quiet and solitary, yet at the same time close enough to the temple that he could easily go to see Jagannath each day. And in the course of that description, he said to the king, he is Krishna. He's the personality of Godhead. So he should be dealt with accordingly. He should be treated with respect accordingly. The king said, simply because this is spoken by you, I accept. I don't have spiritual qualification, but on your say-so, I accept. He's the personality of Godhead. And that was my goodness. That was the seed that started King Prataparudra's eagerness to meet with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who Mahaprabhu was not making it easy for him. He then replied, I know the perfect place. The perfect place is the house of Kashi Mishra. And those who have been to Puri, we heard this a little bit. The house of Kashi Mishra wasn't just like a house. It's a big place. And inside that big place is a quite small room. So it's quiet, as was requested, and private, as was requested, but very near to the temple. Kashi Mishra, in relation to the king, was his priest, his chief priest, Kashi Mishra. So he's a Brahmin, and he had a big place. And Kashi Mishra was ecstatic to hear this idea from the king, and immediately accepted. And so arrangement was made for that quiet place. It became known as Gambhira. Now, Gambhira is a rather common Sanskrit word. It's found, I just word search in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's something like some number, 20, 50, some number of times, and it has nothing to do with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place in Puri. It means secret. It means deep and profound. Has that kind of significance of the word. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita many places, same way. So Gambhira was the name given to the place because of the kind of place it was, at the request of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So thereafter it became this Gambhira. And those of you who have been to Jagannath Puri, you know the place is quite small. It's like from an American home, it's like a big closet or something. It's not like a living room. It's quite small. And very thick walls for many purposes, but it kept the sound out. And in that place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided, and upon his return back, the way that Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, for a number of years and very quickly and beyond human comprehension, the ecstasy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu increased and increased and increased. And one of the principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while he was residing there, he had his personal servant, Govinda. There's a whole description of how that happened. But Govinda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by their side, like a constant companion, one of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went before he accepted sannyas was Sarup Damodar. Sarup Damodar became known as Sarup Damodar. Later, he also accepted sannyas, and for his balance of his life lived that kind of a lifestyle. But he was the very elevated personality in Gaura Lila, and he and Ramananda Roy became most intimate associates, like Lalita and Vishaka, in relation to Krishna. And they fully understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental mood, and they helped him to experience the ecstasies that he appeared in order to experience the love of Radha for Krishna and the happiness of her love, etc. And we know that the happiness of Radharani's love for Krishna in separation looks sad, or you could say it stronger than sad, looks mad. She and the gopis in separation from Krishna would sometimes go mad. And then how to understand madness in a transcendental way, you have to be a transcendentalist in order to understand it, because it's not so understandable, but in principle, it's a type of ecstasy. Madness, that kind of madness, is a type of ecstasy. And the love that Radha had for Krishna, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to experience, was manifested by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in transcendental madness. I'm discussing a little bit with Tamahart what the topic was going to be this evening. And he's now with his wife reading through Chaitanya Charitamrita for some number of times, 8 times or something like that. Just reading the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita again and again. And his expression was, it's really hard for him reading through that section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because I'll read a little passage. This is from Raghunath Das Goswami, found in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Now, this book, I did a little search. I couldn't find any English translation of this book, But it was obviously one of his books because Krishnadas Kaviraj is quoting it. Gaurangastava Kalpavriksha, verse number 4. So this is found in Antya Lila, chapter 14, and the title of the chapter is The Lord's Feelings of Separation, which is Gambhira. Translation. Raghunath Das, because he was present and heard from Swarup Damodar not only what the pastimes were, but how to understand the meaning and the mood and everything. What Lord Chaitanya was experiencing, he understood from Swarup Damodar. In the house of Kashi Mishra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes be greatly aggrieved, feeling separation from Krishna. The joints of his transcendental body would slacken, and his arms and legs would become elongated. Rolling on the ground, the Lord would cry out in distress in a faltering voice and weep very sorrowfully. The appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awakening in my heart maddens me. So, in the previous verses, Krishnadas Kaviraj is taking that message of Raghunath Das and giving it details. Here's a little bit of one of those details. From Gambhira, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was missing. He wasn't in his room. So they went searching and searching. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? They came upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lying in a corner by the northern side of Singha Dwara gate. Singha Dwara, the lion gate. That is the main gate. So he was by the northern side of that gate. At first they were overjoyed to see him, but when they saw his condition, all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar, were very anxious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lying unconscious, and his body became elongated to 5 or 6 cubits. That means like extra big. His joints were separated and his body was extra big. There was no breath from his nostrils, similar to when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought him to his home and he tested whether he was faking. So he held little strands of cotton before his nostrils and saw that there was no movement of air. He wasn't breathing. But he wasn't dead either. He was in trance. Each of his arms and legs had become 3 cubits long. Only skin connected the separated joints. Remember, it's a transcendental body, but it's describing in these terms anyway. The Lord's body temperature, indicating life, was very low. All the joints of his legs, arms, neck, and waist were separated by at least 6 inches. It appeared that only skin covered his elongated joints. Seeing the Lord's condition, all the devotees were very unhappy. They almost died when they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his mouth full of saliva and foam and his eyes turned upwards. Sounds like, what's his name, the deprogrammer? Patrick? Ted Patrick. Describing the devotees that chant Hare Krishna, eyes roll back in the head. When they saw this, it wasn't quite like that. When they saw this, Srup Damodar and all the other devotees began to chant the holy name of Krishna very loudly in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ear. After they chanted this way for a long time, the holy name of Krishna entered the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he suddenly arose with a loud shout, Haribol! As soon as the Lord returned to external consciousness, all his joints contracted and his entire body returned to normal. Raghunath Das Goswami has described these pastimes elaborately in his book Gauranga Stava Kalpabriksha, which I've been unable to find a translation of, or even, the Bengali or Sanskrit translation of. But this is Gambhira. So these things didn't necessarily happen in Gambhira, but it was the base from which he would experience it. He would rub his face against the walls of Gambhira, calling very loudly. In a mood of madness, of separation, he didn't recognize that his face was being mashed. He was not responsive to external, he was entirely internal in a state of madness. So that's Gambhira. I'm going to read something a little bit later, but other pastimes in Gambhira, after he was given this place, devotees, when they would come from Navadvip and other places they came to attend the Rath Yatra. Besides, that was just an annual activity of the devotees, the Vaishnavas, to come to Puri to honor Lord Jagannath's ride on his chariot from the temple to Gundicha, and stay for some time and then back. Aside from that Rath Yatra festival pastime and the dancing and chanting and ecstasy in honoring Lord Jagannath in that way, they stayed for the full, many stayed for the full 4 months of the rainy season. And when they came, now they had something else to see besides the cart festival. They came to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when they came to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it became an annual tradition that they would bring some items, and top of the list of those described who brought items were Raghava Pandit and his wife Damayanti. Raghava Pandit and his wife Damayanti. There's past times where Raghava Pandit and Damayanti invited both Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda to their home to have their lunch. And Damayanti was known to be like Draupadi, a super fantastic preparer of prasadam. And the two lords would have loving exchange with both the Raghava Pandit and Damayanti, and it was very joyful, just their activity of having lunch together. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had accepted sannyas, now they're coming to Puri, bringing very, very special items prepared by Damayanti in little bags. Doesn't describe that, probably not the little plastic shopping bags that now are very popular, but some bags. So it became celebrated as Raghavera Jali, the bags of Raghava Pandit. And she brought not just, a few bags, many bags. And those many bags were added to the many other bags or other ways of conveying and bringing some prasadam for Lord Chaitanya to honor. And they were all put in a corner of Gambhira, which was pretty small. So there's hardly any room for Lord Chaitanya because there was so much prasadam. And Govinda gently indicated to Lord Chaitanya, people are asking me, did he take the prasadam? Did he like the prasadam? You know how that one goes. But you haven't eaten anything, so what should I tell them? Can you eat it? Etc. So one day he ate everything, except for the bags of Raghava Pandit. He said, keep them till later. It's a Gambhira pastime. And every day, Sarup Damodar personally saw to it that some of Damayanti's cooking in these little bags, stored in these little bags, would be accepted as remnants along with Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath, because that was his prasadam. And he's the Supreme Lord. He can eat everything or nothing. He doesn't need anything. But he was accepting because of the love of his devotees. He was accepting. And he particularly accepted the love with which Damayanti prepared. So she was a very special lover in that particular way. This is a Gambhira pastime. And connected to this Gambhira pastime is another nice pastime with many of you know the nice pastime. Govinda, his personal servant, had the practice when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would take a nap, he would massage his feet. Now, in one particular occasion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lying in such a way he couldn't get in. Gambhira, he had to step over the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's a no-no. And he made it a yes. He stepped over the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to massage him, his feet and legs. And then he stayed there, and when Mahaprabhu woke up, he asked, Govinda, what are you doing? And he said, I was massaging your feet and legs while you were resting. Now, if you're massaging somebody's feet and legs while they're resting, I don't know how they can rest, but that was the practice. He said, then why are you still here? He said, because I couldn't step over you. He said, but to get to where you are, you had to step over me. Well, for service, I could step over you, but for my own purposes, I couldn't step over you. So I've been waiting for you to awaken. And Mahaprabhu appreciated his culture and respect of etiquette and his mood of service. For the mood of service, one may do something that otherwise one wouldn't do because it's in the line of service. But for one's own personal needs, one may not do the very same thing because the standard is, the purpose is for the satisfaction of the one being worshipped. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was his life and soul. Now this pastime, this whole section, chapter 14 of Antya Lila, continues. It just goes on and on and on. I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning of chapter 18, and in Krishnadas Kaviraj's own words, how to describe these pastimes. He says, Chapter 18. Rescuing the Lord from the Sea is the title of the chapter, but it just gives an indication. It's the grain of rice in the rice pot. It's the sampling of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. In the brilliant autumn moonlight, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mistook the sea for the river Yamuna. Greatly afflicted by separation from Krishna, he ran and dove into the sea and remained unconscious in the water the entire night. In the morning, he was found by his personal devotees. May that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi, protect us by his transcendental pastimes. While living at Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu floated all day and night in an ocean of separation from Krishna. One of the internal purposes was to experience that love that Radha had for Krishna, and especially heightened is the love in separation. During one night of the autumn season, when a full moon brightened everything, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered all night long with his devotees. He walked from garden to garden, seeing the pastime of Lord Krishna, and hearing and reciting songs and verses concerning Rasa Lila. He sang and danced in ecstatic love, and sometimes imitated the rasa dance in emotional ecstasy. He sometimes ran here and there in the madness of ecstasy, and sometimes fell and rolled on the ground. Sometimes he became completely unconscious. When he heard Sarup Damodar recite a verse concerning the Rasa Lila, or he himself recited one, he would personally explain it as he had previously done. In this way, he explained the meaning of all the verses concerning the Rasa Lila. Sometimes he would be very sad, and sometimes very happy. To explain fully all those verses and all the transformations that took place in the Lord's body would require a very large volume. So as to not increase the size of this book, I have not written about all the Lord's pastimes, for he performed them every moment of every day for 12 years. That would be a big book. As I have previously indicated, I am describing the mad speeches and the bodily transformations of the Lord only in brief. If Ananta with his 1,000 hoods tried to describe even one day's pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would find them impossible to describe fully. If Ganesh, Lord Shiva's son and the expert scribe of the demigods, tried for millions of millenniums to fully describe one day of the Lord's pastimes, he would be unable to find their limit. Even Lord Krishna is struck with wonder at seeing the transformations of ecstasy in his devotees. If Krishna himself cannot estimate the limits of such emotions, how can others? Krishna himself cannot fully understand the conditions, the modes of progress, the happiness and unhappiness, and the moods of ecstatic love of his devotees. He therefore accepts the role of a devotee to taste these emotions fully. Ecstatic love for Krishna makes Krishna and his devotees dance, and it also dances personally, so that we have three dancers: Krishna, his devotee, and ecstasy. In this way, all three dance together in one place. Poetic license. One who wants to describe the transformations of ecstatic love of Krishna is like a dwarf trying to catch the moon in the sky. That's where that metaphor comes in Antya-lila chapter 18. Krishnadas Kaviraj describing He's like a dwarf trying to catch the moon, to describe this which is beyond the fathom and reach of human words, or to speak of experience and consciousness and understanding. Nonetheless, I'm shameless, I'm doing it anyways. As the wind can carry away but a drop of water in the ocean, a living entity can touch only a particle of the ocean of love of Krishna. Endless waves arise moment after moment in that ocean of love. How could an insignificant living entity estimate their limits? Only a person on the level of Swarup Damodar Goswami can fully know what Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tastes in his love for Krishna. So this is this confidential or internal purpose. Manifest in a general sense in his years spent in Puri and feelings of love for Krishna, as Radharani feels love for Krishna in separation. And it was a state of madness. And who can understand it is the message. But Swarup Damodar can understand, which means he's not an ordinary individual. Now, we heard earlier, repeat what we heard earlier, two things. When Raghunath Das was in Puri, because there were several Raghunaths, he was put in the care of Swarup Damodar and known as the Raghu of Swarup, which means that Swarup Damodar shared the profound understanding of everything A to Z with his dear beloved Raghunath Das. So Raghunath Das was carrying not only first-hand witness of the experiences of the exhibitions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy, but he understood the internal mood and feelings of Lord Chaitanya that no one could understand but Swarup Damodar, and then in turn Raghunath Das. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completed his pastimes, Raghunath Das wanted to give up his life. And he had a little plan that didn't happen. His plan was he was going to go to Vrindavan, pay respects to Sanatan and Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan, go to Govardhan Hill and jump off of Govardhan Hill and give up his life jumping off Govardhan Hill. That was his plan. It was a suicide plan. And his mood was so heavy when he reached Vrindavan that Rupa Goswami understood his mood. Although he didn't reveal his plan, he said, you can't achieve perfection by jumping off Govardhan Hill. That's not how we'd all go jump off Govardhan Hill if that was that simple. You don't do that. You can't do that. We were serving under the order of Mahaprabhu in separation, and you were serving in association with Mahaprabhu. So you know what he did, you know his mood, you know his pastimes, you know everything. And now you're with us, those serving in separation. So here's a service for you. Every day, reside at Govardhan, reside at Radhakund. But every day, see this tree over here? Under this tree, every day, for 3-4 hours, every day you recite the pastimes and the teachings and the wonderful dealings, loving exchanges with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Given that order, that's what Raghunath Das Goswami did. He made his residence at Radhakund, and in the audience, hearing from him every day, was Krishna Das. So Krishna Das was the recipient of Swarup Damodar's realizations and understandings. The transmitter of all that was Raghunath Das, and Krishna Das received it, and he understood it fully because he was so spiritually elevated. Krishna Das Kaviraj. In addition, second, Krishnadas Kaviraj had a copy of the diary, the written description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, so it was authentic pastime descriptions, and his mood and his ecstasies and all the internal workings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his diary. So he had these two resources. And then he was already gifted as a kavi, or a learned person, and he was gifted at the capacity of writing because he had already written. So the Vaishnava said, Krishnadas, you got to put this in writing because it's Kali Yuga, and people aren't going to remember. They don't have tape recorders now, so please write it all. And we know the pastime, he didn't feel himself qualified. But he's got this order. So what does someone who doesn't feel qualified do when they have an order? So it's described in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He went to seek the blessings of the Vaishnavas to undertake this task of putting in writing all that he had heard from Raghunath Das Goswami and understood from the diary of Swarup Damodar. And most wonderful of all the Vaishnavas, the exchanges with the different Vaishnavas is a book unto itself. But when he went to see the Madan Mohan deity, you know this pastime, the garland of the deity fell, and it was taken as a sign. He was given the garland of Madan Mohan to write, and so he began with the blessings of Madan Mohan and the Vaishnavas, and so we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, at least in Bengali, and translations have been made of the work itself, and then further commentaries. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, and our Srila Prabhupada for us in English. So we're fortunate. Now, something that I've neglected to do on my way coming to Alachua, I was getting some text messages from Vaisheshika Prabhu. And as soon as you hear Vaisheshika Prabhu, you know what that means. Just hear his name and it means, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. So he texted me to say, back some time ago, I had made a suggestion, an inspiration from somewhere came, and he agreed to be a facilitator for a Zoom discussion with some 40 people here and there and elsewhere to discuss towards the beginning of this month, prior to Gaur Purnima, the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam sets. And what did I say? Chaitanya Charitamrita sets. Thank you. Yes, I'm just interesting. I find it interesting how my mind can't stay on track. So, in his text message, he said, how did it go? And I was giving back and forth. He said, just yesterday, I gave a Srimad Bhagavatam class in Mayapur, and during the Srimad Bhagavatam class in Mayapur, I spoke about sets, and 5 minutes after the class was over, the order of 44 sets of Chaitanya Charitamrita came in online. So his secretaries, his people in ISV were coordinating, and I don't know how many came after that, but he's a powerful representative of our disciplic succession. And I said, I'm holding on to your devotee and following your footsteps. Let's go. So when I come to these different places, including Alachua, now many of you already have. You know what to do if you already have. Find someone that doesn't have and make a gift set. or 2 or 3. And I'm not Vaisheshika Prabhu. I can't stand up as a cheerleader and encourage you in the way that he can do. But the principle is how important is the external reason, the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to relieve the world of undue suffering. And what does distribution of Chaitanya Charitamrita says have to do with that? To make the world aware of who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Stepping back. One of the great acharyas under disciplic line, this most of you know, was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who in 1896, the same year as Srila Prabhupada's birth, at his own expense, a little skinny book, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, in 2 parts, his life, which is the summary of his Lila, and his precepts, which was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's way of describing the 10 essential teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which appeared in something like 80% of his 100 books. It's a little succinct way of saying it again and saying it again and saying it again and beating the drum and helping people understand what the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are. Because the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. And you put it in a capsule form, it makes it very easy to digest. But it's the essence of Lord Chaitanya's teachings and his pastimes. So in the English language, the celebrated book, because later a copy was found, McGill University in Toronto, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent at his expense to these different libraries with the vision that at least educated people should know. Because if educated people know, then the educated people can help people become educated, because that's what educators do. They'll help people know things they don't know. He wanted, because Mahaprabhu wanted, etc., etc., and Prabhupada wanted. So to see that Chaitanya Charitamrita sets go into homes that don't have them, or people that you know, that it would be nice if they had Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his literary feature on their bookshelf, and maybe in course of time they'll read it. Or like Tamahar told me this morning, reading through the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita for the X number of time, I forget which is the number of times he and his wife are together reading this book. Very edifying and purifying. You can hear it again and again and again, and again and again and again. So this is a little rah, rah, rah. Here's a set of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if you don't have it, take it home. And if you don't, if this one is taken, we'll find another one for you for sure. Huh? There's more in the car. There's probably some in your garage too. So if you have an interest or know somebody that you'd like to make a gift copy to, I guess you can see Sri Vrindavan and she'll be very happy to take care of you. Really? I asked that question of Vaisheshika Prabhu. When your team in ISV is distributing books, what's the price? He said $90. I said, oh, the price where I've been going, it's the special reduced price of 108. His reply was, that's a good number. 101, 108. It's not about profit, it's about the spiritual principle behind. So, huh? Okay. So I'm not good at this. Somebody that's good at this would then ask, can I see a show of hands who would like to take home a Chaitanya Charitamrita set? But I'm not going to do that because I'm not good at it. It's just because it's too embarrassing. So I won't do that. But you know who to see, and you know who will be pleased. Maybe you've seen, there are photographs of Prabhupada receiving a new book, something volume, and Prabhupada is, I wasn't there when this happened, but I was told, Hari Sori told me personally, whatever was going on when a new book arrived, Prabhupada would stop everything. It was like the world stopped. And he took the book, he held it to his forehead, his face lit up like a Christmas tree. He smiled so broadly, and he looked very carefully, because he was not just looking at the paintings, he was looking at the quality of the publication, because he was quite knowledgeable in publication. He was very, very pleased when a new book would come, what to speak of continuing and continuing and continuing, flooding the world with love of God. One of the names of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vishvambar. Vishvambar. And the explanation given in Chaitanya Charitamrita means he who floods the world with love of God, Vishvambar. Right in our Gayatri mantras, Vishvambar, one who floods the world with love of God. So become a member of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan party and help flood the world with love of God by the distribution of transcendental literature, and especially for this occasion before Gaur Purnima, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, I thought it would be nice to spend a little bit of time, because there's newer people here and there's also some very experienced devotees here. If you would like to recall some pastime in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his life in Puri, specifically with Gambhira fitting in the description somewhere, something in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life in Puri. If you'd like to share some sound vibration in relation to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Yeah.
It's in Puri, not just in the Gambhira, correct? Okay, so in Puri, Sanatana Goswami came to see Lord Chaitanya, and he had got some sores on his body.
Yeah.
And he was very embarrassed to have the sores on his body, and he would go by the beach where the sand was very hot, because he didn't want his body to touch the pujara's body, to contaminate them. So he would specifically, his feet would get burned going a longer route. So, but when he went to see Lord Chaitanya would embrace him, and he had these oozing sores on his body, and he really didn't like the fact that Lord Chaitanya would embrace him. He felt terrible about it, and he didn't know what to do. So, first of all, he thought, I'll just kill myself. I'll just throw myself under the Rath-yatra cart, because if you do that, you get liberation. And then Lord Chaitanya, because he's omniscient, he knew what he was thinking, so he said, well, if it was that easy to get love of God, I would kill myself 1,000 times. So you better forget about that. And then, who was it? Satyabhama. Who's Satyabhama in Gaura Lila? Jagadananda Pandit. He said, well, maybe you should go to Vrindavan and just disappear. And so Lord Chaitanya knew about that, and he chastised Jagadananda Pandit. He said, you Sanatana Goswami is your senior. Why are you giving him his advice? Which is strange because Jagadananda Pandit was an incarnation of Satyabhama. So, but anyway, who's one of Krishna's principal favorite queens. Anyway, so then he chastised him. And then ultimately Lord Chaitanya embraced him and his sores went away. And then Lord Chaitanya said that you and Haridas are like my children. So you're just like the stool of the baby smells like sandalwood pulp if you're a mother and you have a newborn baby. So maybe you can relate to that. It's, to everybody else, it's not very nice. But for the mother, she loves it. So anyway, your body, you are my children, so your body smelled like this mixture of, what's it called? Chatusama, sandalwood paste, and what else is in it? Camphor, something else. Anyway, so your body smelled so beautiful because you're like my children. And so both you and Haridas. So anyway, his sores got better. And Sanatana Goswami, I have many things. One of the things he said to Sanatana Goswami is that you don't own your body. I own your body. And I have many things that I want you to accomplish. I want you to open temples and write books and so many things, which he did. He wrote many wonderful books, and he established Madan Mohan Temple, and he was the spiritual guide for Rupa Goswami, who's the leader of the Vaishnavas. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Someone else?
Okay. And we want to hear you.
Who's next?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, anything at all. This is
In many pastimes, this one included, he Sanatana appears bewildered, and other devotees appear to be bewildered. Their conclusion, I'm going to kill myself, or seems to be the wrong conclusion.
Yes.
They're proven in the end, no, don't do that, do this. Is this, I'm trying to ask, are they actually bewildered? What are they covered by? Or is it part of a Lila that they're apparently bewildered? Even in the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, I've been listening to some morning walks, and he had some idea of becoming a businessman at some point. That's how he was going to serve Krishna, and then Krishna had a different plan. So I'm trying to relate my life with these
exalted persons.
These awesome persons. Are they actually bewildered? I'm actually bewildered, but are they learning as they go as well? Are they growing in their consciousness as well? Maybe that's the question.
What lesson can we learn from the life of exalted souls when we're not exalted? The exaltedness is not ours. So with them, is it a Lila? It's just their exaltedness, and through them, Lord Chaitanya or Krishna is teaching us something, and they're just being moved by the internal potency. So later, the answer to this question comes from Haridas Thakur, and specifically in relation to Sanatana Goswami. Haridas Thakur concludes, Lord Chaitanya orchestrated this whole thing. The orchestration of this whole thing wasn't specifically to get bewildered, but to put you in a helpless situation. Because service-mindedness, smelly, yucky, pus, smeared on the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he didn't refrain. He would embrace and he would smear, and so it was unthinkable. Now, your question is, did he understand? This is just a Lila, and I'm supposed to go through and play my role in the Lila. It was a Lila. It was the internal potency of the Lord acting in relation to Sanatana Goswami to help make him checkmated, where he had no place to go but one place. And then voila. So that's not exactly our life. Our life is, at best, it's a mix. So the application part to you in your life and with this pastime of Sanatana Goswami, which seems to be what your question is, we're in the mixed position. We're not in the pure devotional position. He was already in the pure devotional position and was put in a bind. And there was an evolving of the transcendental emotion because of the bind, leaving him, this outlet, that outlet, the other. All the doors were locked. And he had no place to go. So one can only imagine the transcendental distress that he was in. He couldn't come up with a clever solution, nor hear one from Jagatananda Pandit, nor anything. So it was a Lila to enhance his exclusive dependence upon Krishna, which was already his. In our case, it's a mix. So he wasn't factually bewildered like you and I get bewildered. He was in a state of transcendental ecstasy, not knowing what to do given the circumstance that was put upon him. Not wanting to remain, not wanting to be an offender. Because remaining was meant offense. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would embrace him. So that's not really our problem. Okay, the mix. So we can take it when we're put in situations that are problematic. There's purification, and in principle the same. The spiritual side of our circumstances, Krishna's helping us to become purified. But it's in our case, it's not karma. It's Krishna inducing us to take deeper shelter of him. And then, we're being encouraged to take shelter of him. And by taking shelter, then we can get some answers what to do in this perplexing or that perplexing situation. And it may not come immediately. If you haven't noticed, it may not come immediately. Not just you, all of us in the room, myself included, may not come immediately. What does Krishna want? And what is the place for me to go? It's full shelter, period. Exclamation point. That's the place to go. And that's what Krishna wants of you and me and all of us when we get perplexed by circumstances. No matter what, whether left, right, sideways, exclusive shelter of Krishna, please. Someone else, Sri Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In response to your request of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Puri or Gambhira, so last year we finished reading in our reading group the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and now we are doing Chaitanya Bhagavat. But what really has really touched me and really appreciate is Lord Chaitanya's very personal interactions with Haridas Thakur. How every day he comes, and so much description is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Lord Chaitanya coming with the prasadam, giving him prasadam, and how Haridas Thakur is looking at the chakra, and Lord Chaitanya goes and have darshan, and then comes and visits Haridas Thakur, and then later Sanatana Goswami also is staying with him in the same place. And bringing them prasadam. And then when Haridas Thakur gets so sick, no, he doesn't really get sick. He's ready to leave his body. And Lord Chaitanya comes in the morning, then he comes again in the afternoon. And how he actually, once Haridas Thakur has left his body, he lifts him up, lifts the body, and he's dancing and dancing by the beach. Just that is so beautifully described by Krishnadas Kaviraj, and it is very, very touching. So it's how Mahaprabhu really is giving his all to his very pure devotee. It's very, very amazing to see that interaction.
Hearing this, thinking about our discussion from yesterday about his taking sannyas, and so sad. Mother Sachi, the description of, she sat by the door and she couldn't speak. She was crying and weeping. She's not only Nimai Pandit's mother, but she's mother-like mother to everyone. She's Mother Sachi, the mother of the whole of Navadvip. And when they saw her in that condition, speechless and crying, they didn't even have to ask, they could understand. And when they tried to speak, in Chaitanya Bhagavat says, you can take the paraphernalia of Vishnu and do what you like. And just went on crying, sitting at the doorway of her house. So that's a little different than Haridas Thakur exchange. But it's his Lila, so why was he kind to Haridas and not kind to his mother? Or, the goddess of fortune. It's a Lila, but she's a 16-year-old girl who was married according to Chaitanya Bhagavat when she was 4 or 5, and lived at the home of her father, and then when she became a teenager, she moved into the house of Sachi and Mahaprabhu. So anyway, and he left. And she wept. And we heard you describe some of the things that happened after that. So it's sad. It doesn't seem like the kind of kindness that he's capable of in his dealings with Sanatana Goswami and his wet itches, and Haridas Thakur when he became elder, and so forth and so on. So the love of Chaitanya, the love in principle, transcendental love, is not of one type only. And what may look to be like unkindness is another kind of kindness. Just different varieties of loving exchange that material yardsticks can't measure. But strengthening and deepening the love of the devotees. And in hearing about them, or because we're hearing about both, it takes a transcendental brain to understand the nature of love, of transcendental love. It's kindness and kindness and kindness and kindness because his nature is kindness. Not materially measured kind of kindness. Yes, Ragamika.
I was thinking of Haridas Thakur also, and especially the exchange with Lord Chaitanya. I'd like if anyone to fill in some of the detail. What prompted Lord Chaitanya to say to Haridas how he was the ideal devotee, achar and prachar. He said some devotees behave properly, nicely,
Yes.
but they don't preach. And some devotees preach, but they don't behave nicely. But you, Haridas, you do both. What was the setting, or what prompted that? Do you recall?
I can't recall the specific. My mind is just going to the mood of Haridas being, transcendently humble, and Mahaprabhu was then responding to his humility. Our Shrutidar over here, he remembers the circumstance of Mahaprabhu making this comment. Can you fill us in? Huh?
I'll try. I don't think I can.
I am okay. You try.
The verse goes like this: Achar karen keho na kare prachar, prachar karen keho na kare achar. Achar prachar karaho dui karya, tumi sarva guru, tumi jagater arja. The Haridas Thakur never complained when there was a scorching heat that Mahaprabhu was brushing teeth. Seeing his tolerance of the heat is a simple thing, may appear. He could have asked somebody to give a shelter, but he was outcast, so no shelter was there. But then Mahaprabhu planted from his branch of a stick, like a toothbrush, and then he planted, and that tree is still today there, that he got the shade. Everything we see in Haridas Thakur's place, they never complained. He tolerated really in every situation. At the same time, he magnified the quality of the devotee when they came to meet Mahaprabhu. So it was not like he was quiet only, but to glorify the Lord. Like even Rupa Goswami Pad in Gambhira, when Haridas Thakur conversation about this taste of holy name, when Haridas Thakur is known as Namacharya, but Rupa Goswami Pad was exclaiming the sweetness, how the sweetness of Krishna's name, that it agitates the heart that wants to hear with thousands and thousands of ears, and thousands of mouth would like to chant and taste it. It pleased Haridas Thakur more than anybody else. Haridas Thakur was dancing, and then he had a wonderful conversation in between everybody, him and Rupa Goswami Pad. He said, until today, Shastra did not give what you gave. Namer madhuri oiche kaha nahi shuni. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that line. Namer madhuri oiche kaha nahi shuni. Until today, nobody ever described the sweetness of holy name. And Mahaprabhu was very pleased. Everybody was pleased. So philosophically he was establishing, and behavior, of course, he never complained, tolerated every day whatever he would give. Something also very striking, he was chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra whole life. But the moment of death, he did not chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He says, there is a verse in Lila, 3rd chapter. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nam Karite Uchcharan, Namer Shahid Pran Hoila Utkraman. He was chanting whole life Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but then at the last moment he was looking at the face of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, left this world. He established that Mahaprabhu's name is complete, gives completeness in the heart of devotee. So many angles to look at it, that how he established his philosophical achar prachar both. I mean, we can look at his life, how in 22 markets they were beating. He was not complaining, even though blood was coming out. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in yesterday, Maharaj nicely mentioned, I believe yesterday, the Sapta Prahar, 7 times 3, so it'll be 21 hours, his
Yeah.
manifestation.
Yeah.
There he said to Haridas Thakur that they were beating you, but you are wishing good for them. So I had to enter in your body and just took all the pain. Look at my back. So they looked at Mahaprabhu's back. All the whips of the Muslim that tried to hit Haridas Thakur was on Lord Chaitanya's body. So it's a nice commentary of Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. They say when we chant, Sudarshan Chakra is always there. তুমি ভালো চিন্তিলে না করো মুই বল তোমার লাগি মোর চক্র হইল বিফল. Very nice sloka that you always wishing others. My Sudarshan Chakra is there to finish them, but it failed because you are so kind, so merciful. His behavior was unbelievable. So Mahaprabhu said, but still they wept. Blood came out, people saw it. So how do you prove it? He said, I took it, everything on my back. So it's very nice. Many like that. This gives you. I have a question, Maharaj.
I was just absorbed in hearing. Go ahead. I'll do what I can do.
Who knows Radharani more than herself?
Than whom? Who knows Radharani more than
Herself.
herself?
What she went through in her experience in Braja Lila. How come in Gambhira, she's never there? Yet she knows the most. Gadadhar Prabhu was not there. Mahaprabhu had to go in the morning to Tota Gopinath temple to hear from him or her, I don't know how you say, him. Okay, because he's Radharani.
Yeah.
Him, what experience happened last night as a Radharani. Why not Gadadhar is in Gambhira, what Mahaprabhu is going through will be easier. I want to hear from you. But he never went.
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying three different things at one time. It's like, here, catch, and you throw three things, and how are they going to catch all three things? So let me separate. One is, we don't hear of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani, speaking about the love of Radharani. We hear about his mood, Krishna himself, which is the purpose of his appearance, to experience that which Radharani experiences. So we don't hear about Radharani in that context because Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself in the mood of. So we don't hear the glorification of Radha like we hear, for example, in the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We hear about the love of Radharani. We're hearing about the love of Radharani and the love of the gopis and the gopis' love for Radharani and their love for Krishna. But it's Mahaprabhu experiencing in the first person or first hand that which was the purpose of his appearance. Then another one of those things you tossed out was he went every morning to hear from Gadadhar Pandit. Now, I didn't catch the particular thing. Are you saying that he asked Gadadhar Pandit what happened last night? What was that?
If something went wrong, at that time he could have helped him. No, this is not what I was experiencing. When Mahaprabhu was experiencing in the mood of Radharani,
Yeah.
then the 3.5, at least 2 we know mostly, that they were supporting the mood.
Yes.
So they were quoting Billamangal Thakur and here, there.
Et cetera, yeah.
Right. So my question is, if Gadadhar Pandit was there, he could have corrected, no, this is not correct.
Because he's the servant.
Yeah.
That's his mood. He doesn't correct. No, in the Lila, He's at the feet in the service of. Gadadhar was always renounced. Gadadhar was always looking up to Mahaprabhu. He wanted to take sannyas when Mahaprabhu took sannyas. He wanted to just be a follower. So that was his mood. So he's not going to correct the person who he's following. That's besides just not etiquette. It's just not in the heart of a person to do that. My response to that particular part of your question is, it's a little bit like, not the same, but a little bit like when Ishwara Puri requested Nimai Pandit to edit and find faults in his Krishna Lilamrita. Mahaprabhu Nimai Pandit said, there's no such thing. You're such an elevated Vaishnav, there's no fault in what you've written. Plus, it's about Krishna. Even if there's fault, there's no fault. So anyone that's going to find some mistakes in your writing, he's an offender. So I find I can't do this service. Nobody, he insisted. So it's that kind of a mood. So how is someone, as Nimai Pandit felt toward Ishwara Puri, what to speak of Gadadhar Pandit felt towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? How can he say it wasn't like that, it was like this? He's not going to do a course correction.
Makes sense. But then next day when they would have a discussion, because when Srinivas Acharya supposed to be taught by Gadadhar Pandit on Bhagavatam, there was not possible to read because Gadadhar Pandit was shedding tears so much that there is not readable page left. So obviously Mahaprabhu was absorbing what he is explaining.
But that's
correction was there, no?
No. That's just Lila. That's a loving exchange. A super transcendental, 3 times transcendental. How do you read from a page that you can't read what's on the page? So it's a transcendental exchange. And Mahaprabhu loved hearing from Gadadhar Pandit. So he's asking Gadadhar Pandit to recite because that was Gadadhar Pandit's service to do. And how is Gadadhar Pandit can recite in front of the person who he sees as his worshipable Lord, under the order of Mahaprabhu to do so? It's just triple transcendental. So how do you understand transcendental? What to speak of triple transcendental? It's like it's out of sight.
Thank you.
It's just a loving exchange to the fullness.
Can I ask you one more question?
I don't know. Go ahead.
The house that Mahaprabhu was staying to experience this Radharani's mood, this is Kubja. This Kashi Mishra was in Krishna Lila Kubja in Mathura, who has a Sadharani Rati.
Who has a what?
The 3 types of Rati, the comparison between Mathura, Dwarka and Vrindavan.
Yeah.
The Vrindavan gopis has a Samartha. They are willing to do anything, anywhere, anyhow.
That's right.
But Sadharani is like only when think of Krishna and Krishna is there, all the emotion comes, but in the absence, they don't exhibit that. So how is that Kubja's place, the highest ecstasy of Radharani is taking place? I'm just a little confused. The gopis walked 1 month to meet Krishna in Kurukshetra, but did not go one day walking to go to Mathura when Krishna was there. Because one Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says is a rasavas, because Krishna going there for some particular purpose. Of course, Krishna didn't go in one sense.
So you did it again. You just threw 3 balls at once and catch.
Right.
No, for the pleasure of the personality of Godhead, the personality of Godhead can induce anyone to do anything at any time. And that's one of the comments in Gaura Lila. You know, the blind man can see, the lame man can walk tall mountains, the dumb person can speak great orations. So exactly how the rasa of that you're asking about, someone can play a role whatever Lord Chaitanya wants them to play, even if it's out of, not of their caste or character type. So that's one explanation. For the Supreme Lord's purpose, he can have anybody do anything at any time, no problema. But that doesn't exactly answer your question. And your question is a little complex, so I'm not sure I understand your question. But the mood of Kubja and the particular mood of the residents of Vrindavan versus the residents of Dwarka versus the residents outside of Dwarka. So the totality of rasa is found within Rasavaisaha, within the Absolute Truth. And he can engage with different persons of different rasa in different ways according to his liking and according to their satisfaction of their love for him. And he can, he's not stuck in doing this way because it's this. And then he's very fluid and very transcendental. And he's just engaging people according to his liking as well as augmenting their liking. But he can elevate their liking as well. And that's part of transcendental pastimes. I'm still not sure I've understood your question, but I'm trying to take a stab at it.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. I'll think about it more and more.
I mean, one of the questions came up in earlier discussions. There are personalities in Gaura Lila, like Ramananda Roy, that are said to be not only this, but also that, and also that. So how does that work? It's not like within the body of Ramananda Roy, there's 3 jivas. There's 1 jiva. And there's different moods, and exhibiting those different moods, which can be thought of as an angsa of this one, that one, the other one. And sometimes this one is prominent, sometimes that one is prominent, sometimes the other, and the other ones have become less prominent. So it's quite fluid for the purpose of their service mood and Lord Chaitanya reciprocating with their service mood. That's another way of saying what I'm saying. That is, different moods at different times can be exhibited for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, whose happiness is their happiness, and their happiness may be diverse, and so there's diverse manifestations of their service mood according to enhancing their happiness. It's a loving exchange that has diversity. It's higher science, spiritual science, but that's a principle that once understanding the principle, it can manifest in however the Lord wants. And that's his pastimes.
I like that concept, that angshik manifestation of the particular mood visible, because one of the biggest conflict within me is like about Purnananda. It's in Prabhupada's purport. There is a angshik of Balaram Gopi and also Krishna. Like completely supposed to be opposite, but how is that simultaneously? No, not simultaneously. Whenever
For the Lord's pleasure.
yeah, that makes sense.
And his pleasure is their pleasure, and they have different moods of pleasing the Supreme Lord, so he reciprocates in different ways at different times. And sometimes this is prominent, and sometimes that is prominent, all within the same person. And for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, and the pleasure of the Lord's devotee, it's loving exchange. That's the principle. And then the application of the principle makes it, enjoyable. And maybe a little perplexing, but that's okay. We're used to being perplexed. Something further. You have something. Yeah. You get the last question. I was a little concerned that, the topic was too brief and how we're going to use up our time, but I forgot we're in Alachua. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. This is like just a history question. How did Madhavendra Puri got the deity of Gopala, right? Madhavendra Puri, right? Yeah. Okay. And so how did that deity went into like other sampradaya, kind of like Srinathji, right? Madhavendra Puri found like Gopal. So that's right now Srinathji deity.
Yes.
So instead of coming the disciplic succession like Madhavendra Puri to Ishwara Puri to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like why it didn't come on that lineage and it diverted to the Rudra Sampradaya and went, and now the worshipping is Vallabha Sampradaya. So how did that happen? Like
You want to know the history, or how did Krishna permit it to happen?
No, history.
The history. My memory is fair to partly cloudy on this particular topic. My memory says, Adhikar to correct me if I get it wrong. My memory says that the Gaudiya pujaris were worshiping the deity. And there was a loving dealing between the Gaudiya followers and the Vallabha followers. And in the course of time, there was a fallout between them. And I can't remember exactly, but some kind of what the procedure was, etc., etc. And when the deities were at risk, they were taken to a place where there's something about walking on Govardhan Hill and the something. I can't remember the something. And so for the safety of the deity was taken to where the deity is today, and then the pujaris that were worshiping the deity continued worshiping the deity, and then they became part of that sampradaya. And with a name change and the mood change, and according to their mood. Now that I can't recall. Can you recall? And I'll be happy to do some research, because it's a common question. It's not a common question. It's a question that arises from time to time. And I understood it much better than I just spoke it just now, but there was some conflict that arose.
I don't know details, but saying the other day, Ramanacharya was Balacharya, right? Pran? That's in the, it's in the Navadvip. No, not what I read. Anyway, it was either Vishnu Swami or Ramanacharya.
It's Navadvip Mahatmya. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a big explanation by Shiva Ram Swami about how the followers of Balabhacharya say that the deity self-manifested, but Shiva Ramaraj disputes that. He has a whole explanation in his 8-volume book. If anyone has it here, we can find it. It's very interesting. But they claim that the deity self-manifested to Balabhacharya, but he says there's so much evidence that contradicts that. That's all I know.
That's one I've not heard. If you send me an article, send me a copy too. Okay. Because the history it's nice history, But it's not clear in my mind right now. It can be circulated. How are we doing? Are we ready to finish? Okay. Okay.
Why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say he found it difficult to read that part of the book?
Why did he do what?
Tamaha, he said he was telling you how he's read that book so many times, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that section of Lord Chaitanya going through his different bodily changes where his limbs are separated by 6 inches. You said he found that hard to read, so I was wondering if you explain why.
I find it hard to read?
No, he said he found it hard to read.
Tamahar.
Yeah.
He was specifically speaking about his grinding his face against the wall and smashing his face, and in the mood, it was too awful. He couldn't continue. There's many, not just one place, it's multiple places where that mood of in Gambhira separation from Krishna, defacing his body and mutilating his body, according to the descriptions. And he found it hard to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he
I
claimed.
understand.
Mika? Last one.
On the topic of Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we were doing the Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon, I was composing, and Prabhupada came to take a tour of the new BBT facilities. He had not been there yet. And he stood by my side while I was at my composing machine. He was here and he said, "I dreamt of this in Vrindavan."
Wow. No. You use the phrase composing. That's transcribing or composing? You're hearing the recording.
I wasn't hearing. It was a manuscript that we took it from. And we put it into the composer.
Okay.
Justified the copy.
Okay.
Can I dare say I took it that he dreamt that his book would be published with the latest technology? Because we had to go to school to learn that Redactron composing machine, to a little school in New York when we first started using them.
So what did he say in his dream? I had a dream what?
He didn't say. He just said, "I dreamt of this in Vrindavan, standing by my side, looking at me, typing, coming in."
Wow. Okay. You have something.
Thank you so much for inspiring people about Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm assisting Sri Vrindavan. We have done few sets for this marathon this year, and we are requesting, hoping, praying that you sign the sets that would go out on this trip. Is that possible?
Anything's possible. But right now, at this moment, I don't know if that's
No.
a good idea.
Tomorrow, day after tomorrow.
Tomorrow, she can orchestrate, and I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Gaura Premanandi Haribol.